Give me the Johnny Carson countdown.
1, 2, 3. Is that it? I don't know the Johnny Carson.
Are we in?
We're in.
Oh, wait.
Unscripted.
Good afternoon.
Hi, guys.
Unscripted narrative. We've got a new guest.
Yes, we do.
That our good friend David Armstrong brought back.
Hi, guys.
So we're going to let you introduce him.
Very simply, is my friend Tony Richmond.
Hey.
What's up, Tony?
We
Welcome.
become fast friends over
How
the
you
years.
doing?
Great.
So
Thanks for being here.
One of my first questions was going to be, Tony, have you ever heard of a podcast? But we already talked about it, so now he's already heard of it.
Well, I've heard of it. I've heard of them. I've only heard one, which is the one you did with David.
Nice. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good.
Entertaining, right?
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Rather amusing.
But
David's a very funny guy.
he is, and the storytelling is fantastic.
He's got a great raconteur.
Yep.
Raconteur.
I am in the shadow of storytelling, Tony.
But most cinematographers are not great raconteurs.
Oh.
What's a raconteur? I have no idea what that is. What's a raconteur?
It's the front end of your car where you steer.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that's a
that's
rack and
pinion.
pinion.
Oh, well,
See, I know my
sorry.
cars.
Clarification. Yeah. All right, so let's.
Well, what is a raconteur?
Yeah,
Someone who just tells stories.
Oh, okay.
Constant tells stories.
He is a good storyteller. I've got a lot of great comments on your podcast.
Oh.
Yeah, people really enjoyed it. Yeah, you're
Well, have
a
I
wealth
got-
of knowledge.
Have
my friend- Sorry.
Have I got some stories?
Before we
can't
get
wait to hear.
going, Kreppel and I are going camping.
Next weekend.
Yeah, probably going to postpone Thursday. It looks like rain, so
Yeah.
we'll just come in Friday.
Cool. So we'll be rolling in early Saturday.
Yeah, which brings to mind, you love camping, don't
No, I
you,
don't.
Tony?
I mean, when you say camping, are you actually going to?
I fucking hate it.
I really loathe it.
That's what he said to
I
me.
loathe it.
He loads.
He heard me say the word camping the other day, and he just stopped and looked at me and said, "Are you fucking crazy?"
But you're not going intense, though, are you?
No, I have a nice old little steel trailer.
Yeah,
It's still gonna be
He
cold.
has an
It's-
apocalyptic
it's-
trailer.
It's luxury.
And what do you eat? How do you cook?
What do you
I
eat?
bring Valerie.
Oh my God, it sounds.
She cooks.
It sounds fucking dreadful.
It's awesome. It is. I
and
love
it's going to be
camping.
pouring with rain. It's just going to be dreadful.
Yeah,
Oh, it is going to be raining when you guys go too.
yeah. I'm just
Only on Thursday,
cozy
right?
up to Val. We bought ourselves a 12-volt blanket with a little battery plug
Oh,
into
God.
it.
Oh, perfect for water.
Yeah, you just when you have a camper, camping's not so bad. But you do if you have a smaller one like you guys do, and I have a smaller one as well. You do kind of get forced outdoors,
Yeah.
but you get a canopy and you just do stuff underneath
I'm
the
sorry.
canopy.
I much prefer 5-star hotels.
Yes, as
And
you should.
And room service.
Yeah, a little spoiled.
And other people's per diem.
there you go.
Other people's per diem. So, Tony, long history, really long IMDb. It's hard to get down that far. You're scrolling and you get a cramp. That's how much you got going on there. So, tell us when you first got into it and what inspired you to get into the movie business.
Well, the thing that inspired, I loved. My father was a taxi driver. We come from a very working class family, but he had two great loves. One was soccer, and the other was movies. And I was lousy at soccer, but he used to take me to the movies once a week, and I just loved going to the movies. And I always remember seeing one movie in particular that struck me as was Shane, and I just loved the photography of Shane. Just loved it, and I thought, my God, I just. I don't know, I'd like to do something like that. But and I didn't like school, and I left school when I was 15, and I knew no one in the movie business, but somehow I managed to get a job at Pathé News. You have Movie Tone News in America, and Pathé News in England. All news was shown in cinemas, and we made 2 newsreels a week. And I was running up and down Wardour Street carrying cans of film, which is the one main street in London, where all the film companies are. And then I used to go out and help the cameramen on big things like the Cup final or the Grand National or the Queen's birthday or some. And the reason they took me was that when they did those things, they had to get there early and set up and then wait. And they'd all go to the pub. So I'd sit there for 4 hours. But then there was this one guy that came back drunk. His name was Ken Gordon. He's dead now, so I can mention his name. And he was always completely smashed. So he sort of taught me how to do it, and it was a one-man band, so I learned to load the camera and hold it and take a light meter reading, and I was very excited by that. And eventually they got me a union ticket, and they were going to make me a newsreel editor, or cutter, as they were called. And I really didn't want to do that. And I got a job at a little studios run by the Danziger brothers, who own the Mayfair Casino in London. And I'm sure it was a legitimate casino, but I'm sure they were laundering money somehow. So they built this studio, and I got a job as a clapper boy in the feature department, and we made one feature every 9 days.
And what's a clapper boy?
Well, a second assistant they're called now.
Sounds like
You
something
put the
else.
slate in,
The second AC here, yeah.
But we were called clapper loaders.
Cool.
We loaded the magazines, put the slate in, and assisted the first assistant. And basically, you were also a Batman, a personal messenger boy for the cinematographer.
Mhm.
Do his, run his laundry to the, whatever, did whatever he said. And, I managed to progress from there. I mean, to cut that all very short is that I've one thing I've always felt, and I've told this to David many times, there's a lot of incredibly talented people in the movie business, both directors and cinematographers, but you need a lot of luck, and that and the luck, I think, for me was being in the right place at the right time.
Nice.
And someone got sick on a very big picture at Pinewood Studios, and that was Call Me Bwana, a dreadful movie with Bob Hope and Anita Ekberg. And
I remember it.
it all took place in Africa. We shot it in Pinewood Studios in London and Denham Golf Course. And I worked on that for a few days. And then I found out that particular cinematographer was going to do From Russia with Love. And somehow I got hold of his telephone number. And it took me about a week to pluck up courage to call him. Because, in those days, cinematographers or DPs, directors of photography, were sort of gods. They were gods,
Right.
And I did call him, and he said, "What the fuck do you want?" And I said, "Well, Mr. Moore, I hear you're going to do From Russia with Love, and I want a job on it." He said, "All right, let me think about it." And he put me on the second unit, and that was the start of it. And
Wow, cool.
So what does that mean to be on the second unit?
But there was another unit going. You clean up stuff. You do some
Okay,
action
gotcha.
stuff. You went off on your own. You did
Cars exploding.
plate shots. A lot of fun stuff. And it was
So some B-roll and stuff like
yeah,
that.
it was really nice and easy. And then we'd sometimes go in and be B camera.
And that, let me ask you this, Tony. What? Because this went by a little bit ago. For the people who don't know what it means, but what do you mean when you say you get a light reading?
Take a measurement from a light meter.
And what are you looking for?
The f stop.
The correct exposure.
The correct exposure.
Okay, perfect. So it's not too dark or it's not
That's right.
blown
So
out.
No, it's just right.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
But that was very simple. But all that stuff I did with the newsreel camera, they were one-man bands,
Yeah.
and it was mostly exterior. You didn't have lights,
Right.
And then one thing led to another, and then I went back to a little studio in London, just outside London, called Hammer Studios, where they made all the great Hammer horror pictures, the early ones with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. I joined them as a clapper loader, and I was sort of permanently employed, and they would bring in for each movie separate DPs. And there's one guy, John Wilcox, that took me under his wing, and he said, "Listen," he said, "I'm going to go off to Israel and do a picture. I'd like you to come." So we went off to Israel, and we were on the first unit, and Nicholas Rogue was the director, cinematographer. He was a young DP then, on the second unit. And I gravitated towards him and his crew because they were completely wild. I mean, they just party a lot, drank a lot.
Uh-huh.
So how old were you then, by the way? Let's get a time frame here.
Probably 19,
19.
Holy
yeah.
cow.
19.
20.
Wow. That's a long career. I mean, to start that young.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
how many people get to start?
I started in 1959,
Wow.
and all in the camera department.
Yeah. I started when I was 18.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
And then, about 6 weeks before we left, the movie finished, Nick said, "Listen," he said, "I'm leaving, and I'm going to go do another movie. I can't tell you what it is. I can't take my operator and focus puller with me, but I'm definitely going to take you." And I got back from that movie, and there was an urgent call from MGM to go and see them, and they were really pissed off because in those days, studios had camera departments
Right.
and people were permanently employed, and it was for Dr. Zhivago. So I said, "How long am I going to be away?" And they said, "You're going to be away for about 12 weeks. Well,
Wow.
Wow.
we shot that for 52 weeks. And after a month, Nick Rogue got fired. Nick had an incredible sense of humor, and David Lean had absolutely no sense of humor at all, unless he was cracking the joke.
I see.
And Nick would always, Nick really would piss him off and say, David would say, "This is the setup."
Yeah.
Nick would say, "Well, what about if we we weren't on a 30, but we were on a 40, and we were over here a bit." And David didn't like that sort of thing, so he fired him.
He didn't like suggestions.
No, he didn't. No.
Don't give me any suggestions.
And listen,
please.
look, make no mistake. David Lean was a brilliant director. But what happened was, I really disliked David Lean, and someone told him I disliked him because he'd fired Nick. So he went out of his way and took me under his wing, and I learned more about filmmaking, I think, than
David Lean did this.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I didn't know
David,
that.
and he was wonderful with me,
Yeah.
And in those days, you didn't, we probably sometimes did 2-3 shots a day. Sometimes we didn't shoot at all,
Yeah.
And if you're listening and you're looking up at IMDb, David Lean's, Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia. I mean,
and Oliver Twist, and many great
Iconic.
movies.
Yeah.
the
An iconic movie maker, and a real movie maker. I mean,
Right.
brilliant with artists, brilliant with story, and he did a wonderful thing. A lot of directors get all uptight with writers and things like that, and David always wanted Robert Bolt with him on the set because he always said that if you get into trouble shooting, you cannot shoot your way out of trouble, but you can write your way out of trouble.
Oh, nice.
And I think that's really
Nice.
one of my favorite, many favorite stories from you, but the one where the horses are charging over the snow.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah, tell us. That's a great story. So
Well,
if you've seen Dr. Zhivago, it's this huge charge of infantrymen on horses in the snow over this huge flat plain,
Right.
charging, right, and it's just snow everywhere. And
It was What happened? We shot the movie in Soria and Madrid. They built the Moscow Street in Madrid, and the rest of the movie is to be shot up in Soria. I mean, when I say the Moscow Street, we built the city of Moscow, Kremlin and everything, and
Wow.
two complete working tram tracks and things like that. It was massive. It took them 2 years to build the set. But we, so we would go backwards and forwards between Madrid and Soria, which is about 3 hours away. And, ever since they kept records, there was 6 feet of snow a year. That year it didn't snow at all. And that's where they did the Varricino house, if you've seen the movie, The Ice House. And it just didn't snow. So we did these very wide shots. We laid marble dust down and snow blankets, but over a huge area. And it looks fantastic. And then
it's all marble dust.
All
You
marble
see them,
dust.
and it looks like snow for as far as the eye could see.
Right.
and then we
It's just hundreds of people sprinkling marble dust.
So they
Wow.
said,
So
listen,
crazy.
this is not going to work. Go back to your apartments in Madrid. We'll call you with plans tomorrow. We were told in the camera department, go and pack up the cameras. We're going to Finland. We went within 24 hours. We were shooting in Finland.
Wow.
But anyway, so to David's story. So there's a scene in the movie where the Red Army is waiting in the woods, and they charge out on this frozen lake. And what it was, we did it in the middle of the summer. It wasn't a frozen lake. It was just a piece of land. They just bulldozed everything out right on the edge of the woods, bulldozed it flat. It's huge. They laid 8x4 or 4x8 metal plates every now and again, covered them with grease, and then covered that with snow, with marble dust. So it's in the middle of the summer. So you see stills. We're all in
T-shirts.
No, it was so hot. We're no shirts on at all. With these great big cameras, and these
Filming snow.
These guys are all dressed in their woolly,
Big wool
and
outfits.
suddenly they pull their swords and they charge across this lake, full gallop.
Oh,
And as the horses hit the metal plates, they would slide from under them.
Yeah.
oh,
And I got to say, the Spanish horsemen were fantastic.
Yeah.
There's not one horse was hurt.
Oh, that's
Not
great.
one horse
Yeah.
didn't get up from that.
Right.
And it was just amazing. So,
that's cool.
and we laid about 100 yards of track for the Chapman Titan.
Oh, shit.
So those tracks were, I think they came in lengths of about 20 feet, but they were that thick, because you know how heavy that is.
No, Chapman Titan is a big, it looks like a sort of a tank in some ways with a big craning arm out. So this is a big
Right.
plane on
we were-
track.
And
100 yards is long.
And we just fly along that track,
Yeah. What today I know in our social climate, it's very sensitive to interactions among people. I'm really curious. At 19 years old, what was set life like?
Fantastic.
Great
Was it?
question.
Say what you like.
Really?
No, we want you to say what
Yeah.
it was like.
Say what.
It was really fantastic. You go away on location, and
I mean, 12 weeks. Do you get to see the place? 52 weeks? Do you actually?
Oh yeah, I mean the great thing about being on location on a movie, if you're foreign location, is there's always, even though you take a crew with you, there's always a huge element of local crew. I mean, all the electricians in Spain were Spanish, all the grips. I mean, Zhivago had a crew of 340.
Holy crap!
And I got to tell you, students shooting their thesis film have more camera equipment than we had on that movie.
Right.
We only had 4 lenses. That's all they were in those days. Or 4 anamorphic lenses. And so you get you're working with local people, you get a flavor of the country, you get a flavor of everything. It was wonderful. It's just really wonderful.
Yeah, cool. Google anamorphic if you don't know.
Cinema scope.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a lot different now? Or do you think they still have as much fun as you guys were having?
No, you don't have any fun anymore.
Yeah.
No, movie making is very, very serious. And we always had a great deal of fun. Obviously, it was very serious when you were shooting, but there was a lot of camaraderie and a lot of fun and a lot of extremely good but very, very bad behavior.
Please tell us.
Very good bad behavior.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good bad behavior.
That's great. I know, because I work with a lot of people who have 14 days to make a movie. They don't have
time to have fun.
Yeah, time. It's like
and you think that do you think that's what's changed it?
I think a lot has to do with that.
It's become, I really don't believe, a lot of people would disagree, but films are not necessarily an art form in America anymore. It's a business.
Yeah.
And that's why at this time of the year, we're getting all the really good low budget movies coming out, just for the Oscars. And there's some really good small movies. I mean, like Jojo Rabbit, for one, is fantastic.
Right.
Well, you've seen that. You should see it. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. It's very funny. It's a satire. About a boy going off to become a little...
A Hitler youth, right?
You're going away to be a good Hitler youth to a weekend camp.
Wow.
Some of it doesn't go quite right for him, so he takes his imaginary friend with him, who is Adolf Hitler, who is a bumbling fool. It is really, really funny. People hate me for saying that, but it's a funny, funny movie. It's a very well made movie.
Cool. What do you do? What do you do right now? What are you doing now?
I along with David, we between jobs, we teach I teach and David teach. We teach at the New York Film Academy in Burbank.
So you're telling me you're still on set these days?
Well, I just I'm getting a bit long in the tooth now, and I really don't want to work 18, 15, 16, 18-hour days anymore. And so I've got a good job, a good gig there.
Right. Tony's the chair of the cinematography.
But
he's my boss.
Cool. But going back to
that's a good boss.
To my youth, and I said you need a lot of luck. I was helped a great deal by 3 cinematographers: Nick Rogue, John Wilcox, and Freddie Young, the great Oscar-winning cinematographer, and David Lean, and also John Schlesinger, the director, and and I could never have done it without them. So I feel like teaching I'm sort of giving back to hopefully the future filmmakers, and I'm getting paid for it, and I really enjoy it. We have some good students, and it's all good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I want to get into some things that we want to discuss a little bit, going off of your IMDb here.
Okay.
Documentary with the Beatles. Let it be.
Let it be. Yeah. We just done a ultra high def 4K restoration of that, and it is coming out. That was pretty wild.
Was it?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well,
I kind of looked at it a little bit. They were trying to get things back together or something. The band was. You can tell me better, but I haven't watched it. But I read the little synopsis, and it was like they're trying to find the groove again, so to speak.
Well, I did 2 things in '68. I did the Rock and Roll Circus with the Rolling Stones, and Let It Be with the Beatles. And what had happened was that Michael Lindsay Hogg, actually the first movie I shot, how I got that was interesting. First movie I shot was a huge movie for which John Schlesinger got me, a huge movie for Paramount called Only When I Laugh. It was based on a novel by Len Dayton, who wrote Ipcress File and those spy books. And this was a comedy, and it starred David Hemmings, who was a massive star then, And then we finished the movie, and then, as they would in those days, they hired companies to do the titles. And I got a call from this company called Chambers and Partners, and they said, listen, we've been hired to do the titles, but it is using the actors in an airplane, so we feel we should get the movie's cameraman to do it. And I said, okay, fine. It was being directed by a young guy called Michael Lindsay Hogg. who they were trying to get him into commercials. And, we shot for a week, and Michael and I got on like a house on fire. Actually, he's Orson Welles' son, believe it or not. But he only admitted to that about 2 years ago. And he looks just like Orson Welles did at Chimes of Midnight, big cherubic face and smoked big cigars. And at the end of it, we got on well. He said, "What are you doing next weekend?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Well, do you want to do a job for me? We're going to shoot Jumping Jack Flash for the Stones." So I did that, and so Michael and I got friendly when we did Rock and Roll Circus. And after that, he called me and said, "Listen, we're going to do, I've been asked to do a Beatles spectacular." I think it was for ABC television. And I said to him, "Are you going to shoot it on tape or on film?" He said, "I'm going to shoot it on tape." I said, I didn't want to do it because I would have had to have used television operators, and I didn't get on too well with them during the making of the Rock and Roll Circus. We used 2 special television cameras that had a beam splitter in, where half the light went to the tape and half the light went to, or the tube, half the light went to a 16mm camera that was built into the camera.
I had no idea there was anything like that.
Well, Mick Jagger sent Michael and his wife to France, and they had these cameras. So to all intents and purposes, it was, excuse me, a pedestal TV camera. So the operator would zoom, focus, do the dolly, the whole lot they do on television, and the director could be outside in a truck cutting it like a live show. Mm-hmm. So when we did the show, the film, the 16mm was developed. It had a mark. Somehow a mark got put in. So you had an instant rough cut from the negative and print, But that's another story. But
so you have your internal crew, which is inside doing your capturing of the footage with the band.
Yes,
and then you have
the director in the truck.
Like a live show. So like a live.
So you're doing a line cut.
Yeah, like a live television show.
Wow.
So he's cutting on tape. So he's got a instant cut on tape.
Right.
And it marks the film.
And the negative is marked.
Oh,
so you can make a rough cut.
That's pretty sweet.
Editing.
But we got those from France. And then whilst we also, as part of another amusing part of that story is that during that weekend we went to Paris. Mick Jagger asked us to go and see Brigitte Bardot because they wanted her for the Ringmaster. But that's another story. But we'll get.
Can I just say I wanted Tony's career off to Paris?
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, where were we? We were talking about the Beatles. So because I didn't get on in those days on a show like that, I would have been like the lighting engineer or the lighting director. It had nothing to do with the operation of the camera or the composition.
I see.
So I had to get TV operators. They didn't like my involvement, but I went out and in. So when Michael said he was going to do this, and I said didn't want to do it. So about 4 or 5 weeks later, I get a call from a guy called Dennis O'Dell, who was a line producer I knew, and I was friendly with him. And he also had just taken over running Apple Films. He listened. He said the boys had rented an empty studio at Twickenham, and they were there because Ringo Starr had just finished The Magic Christian, and they're going to rehearse for this. This spectacular thing. Why don't you get a couple of 60mm cameras and come down and just shoot what you like, and if it's any good, we'll put it together, and you can have half the money and half the money.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so I did. I went down there. So we were there for 25 days shooting with the Beatles.
25 days.
What?
And it was a lot of fun because we'd shoot a bit, they'd fuck about, they'd play the guitars, we'd do another song, they'd all start an argument, and Linda McCartney would be there and Yoko Ono, and they all hated each other, and then it was all friendly, and it was all a load of shit again.
Oh,
but it was a lot of fun. And then, Lennon said one day they were deciding where they would do this, where they're going to do this spectacular, and George Harrison wanted to do it on an Indian reservation, a sacred place in Taos, New Mexico. Lennon, wasn't too interested in doing it at all, I don't think. McCartney wanted to do it in the Colosseum in Rome, which of course you couldn't shoot in those days. And then Ringo said, why don't we do it? I mean, I can't do his accent. He said, why don't we do it going across the Atlantic on the QE2? Well, I perked up. That wouldn't be bad. I don't mind if it's tape. I'll go across the Atlantic on the QE2 to do this sort of concert. Anyway, Lennon said, what's all that shit like you're shooting? I said, it's okay. He said, well, let's see some. So I printed some up. A couple of days later, we got some prints, and they liked it. And they said, well, we can use this. and just find a way to end it. And there was more discussion. And then we said, well, let's do it on the roof of Apple.
Oh, wow.
So I got 16 cameras all over parts of London. And we did that concert on the roof of Apple, which was it brought London to a standstill. It brought that part of London to a complete standstill.
Yeah.
And we bought in the lobby of Apple, which was in Savile Row, where all the great bespoke tailors are. There was the Savile Row police station. So we knew the police would come.
Mm-hmm.
And we built a sort of little box, a big box with a two-way mirror, stuck a guy called Mike Fox, who was a tiny little camera operator, put him in that box. He was small enough to photograph the police coming, and they did. And they eventually came up to the roof, and then they said, you got to stop this. And someone pulled the plug out, and we stopped. And then Lennon plugged it back in again, and we started again.
Oh, my God.
And did a few more numbers. And what was exciting was that the police then said, who's in charge? And everybody pointed to Michael Lindsay Hogg. Now, Michael, I love Michael. We're great friends. But he's got no balls whatsoever. And they said to Michael, if you don't stop this right now, we're going to arrest you. So he stopped it, which is really rather stupid because they should have arrested him. What are they going to do? They're going to put it, they let him away in handcuffs. It's a great way to end the movie. Right. But that was
wasn't thinking.
that was the last time they sort of played together.
Wow.
There was
That's
one
crazy.
wonderful day that, I was in, I haven't had a drink for 31 years, but I used to be a big drinker. All camera crews were huge drinkers in the 60s and 70s.
What was your drink? What'd you drink?
Well, I'd start off with, when I woke up, a cognac in my coffee, just to get you to
Start
work.
off, yeah.
And then basically I wouldn't drink again until about 11 o'clock in the morning. That would be
you paced yourself. I like that.
Couple of vodkas and tonic. And then, you broke for lunch. You always had an hour for lunch in those days. And then either you'd go to the pub and have a pint of beer or go to the restaurant in the studio and have a little glass of wine, And then I tried not to drink again until about 3 in the afternoon. And it would be sort of coffee and black coffee till you wrapped.
It's primer.
It was all good.
Yeah,
it was all
yeah,
good.
It's a little primer.
It was all good,
I'm
And
envious.
I did one movie with a director called David Green. Actually, it was the second movie I shot with Bette Davis. And on the second day of shooting, David Green got the prop guy to give him an apple box. He said, quiet. And he got on this apple box. And I just want to tell you guys, no one used to drink on my set except for me and him. I love this director.
My kind of guy.
But there was a lot of heavy drinking in those days, but it was all good. No one
got hurt.
No one got hurt. No one. They paced themselves. They didn't. If they got too drunk in the bar at the studio after work, they just sleep in their car till the next day. I mean, things like that.
So who was more fun to work with, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Well, the Stones I like the Stones. I always liked the Stones. I mean, and I worked a lot more with them. I did the Rock and Roll Circus. I shot a movie that Jean-Luc Godard directed with the Rolling Stones, and did a few other things for them. But I just loved it. I still love the Stones' music.
Yeah.
And they were a lot of fun.
I have a question for you. In settings like that, and you're cruising around with a camera, they're on their instruments. Are you allowed to cross the line, or do you have a perimeter that you can? You have to kind of stick around and hover,
Well, the two main things were the Rock and Roll Circus, which was just a series of bands. I mean, have you seen it? The Rock and Roll Circus?
I have not.
You should do it. It's one of the great pieces of rock and roll. We shot it in 1968. It was never released until. I guess 2000 and
oh my God!
Are you
really?
serious?
96.
What
I think.
What was the point of shooting it then? If you
We shot it, and then what happened was, if you watch it, you'll see the Stones do fight. It starred Taj Mahal, Jethro Tull, Marianne Faithfull,
name dropper.
She was beautiful,
amazing.
Marianne Faithfull, The Who,
Yeah.
and then there was a jam session between Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, Keith Richards, and John Lennon.
Wow, that's cool.
And then they rented a really shitty circus, like the worst circus in the world at a time when they would go to these podunk towns in over England.
You mean like clowns and midgets
Well,
and that
clowns
sort of thing?
and midgets and people that rode horses.
Small people.
And people that did trapeze shit.
Thank you for correcting me.
It's little
So
people.
we erected
little people.
this circus in a TV studio just outside London.
Yeah.
And between the acts, the circus would come on. The circus was great because they had a woman riding horses who kept falling off. The two trapeze artists were about 8 feet off the ground.
Oh,
so it was just dreadful. But and so these groups would come, and so we started shooting about 2:00 in the afternoon, and so by the time we got to the Stones, it was 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
And the Who had been on before them, and the Who were absolutely electric. They did 3 numbers. The Stones came on, and I thought they were fantastic. And we finished at 2, and it was a great day because, like those sort of things, the bands come and go. They come do their gig and fuck off.
Right.
Everybody stayed. They were having such a good time.
Nice.
That's cool.
And it was full of police because we needed a crowd for the circus. So we had all these kids. We had to change out every 4 to 5 hours. So they all wore ponchos. We gave them coloured ponchos and funny hats so we could tell the difference. And they would be shipped in from London
Oh, wow.
on buses and then shipped back. But half of them would jump off the buses and the parents were calling. Their kids didn't come home.
Oh,
The
man.
police. It was wonderful. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So when Mick saw it put together, he hated it because he didn't feel they were as good as the Stones.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
You mean as good as the Who?
Sorry, he didn't. Yes,
he didn't. He didn't feel that they performed
they were
as good as the Who.
No, the Who were electric. So he wanted to shoot it again, and we couldn't do it straight away because of their commitments. And by the time he got around doing it, Brian Jones died,
Oh, wow.
and then nothing happened to it.
Okay.
And then someone got hold of it. Some of the footage went missing. They found it, and then they recut it, and they closed the New York Film Festival in 1990. But it's an incredible piece of rock and roll. You should see it.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Circus.
The Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. It's
I'll
really
totally check it out.
It's really fantastic, and there's a 4K restoration of it. You should get that one.
Yeah.
Blu-ray.
Okay. Great. The Stones have crept back into my life now that I've been playing music again.
Yeah, they're great. They're
Yeah.
great. I mean, Keith Richards should be dead, man. The only thing one can say about that is that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the heroin must have been really pure,
Yeah, clean.
uncut, clean. It's probably good for you.
So, yeah, right. So you said that you used to drink and now you don't.
31 years.
What was the reason for stopping?
Well, I guess, I mean, I didn't have to stop. I mean, I was never sent away. I never got
Sure.
a DUI. I never put any children in the fridge or
Right.
the gas cooker. Never killed a wife.
Right.
Just a run of the mill. I liked booze,
Yeah.
and the byproduct of liking it is you get drunk.
Yeah.
Didn't intend to get. It's not like kids today that go out to get smashed. They
Yeah.
we didn't. You just if you drank too much, you got a bit tipsy, and it was a sad. And I thought, I was getting on my age, and I thought, this is sort of the time to give this up. And I'd also remembered that one time I was on a little movie here, and because when I first came here in 1979, I couldn't work. The union kept me out for 6 years.
When you moved to the United States.
Yeah. So I did commercial. I did this one little picture, which was really a rather good movie, actually. It was Kirk Vonnegut slapstick with Jerry Lewis and Madeline Kahn.
One of my favorite.
And they
Jerry
played,
Lewis.
For
me
sure.
too.
Oh, I want to find out later about Madeline Kahn.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
one of my
And-
favorites.
And, they played 2 parts. They played the parents and they played the idiotic twins. So Madeline Kahn and Jerry Lewis were either dressed as very rich parents or in pink onesies as the infantile twins. So we had big cots built and things like that. But that's another story. And I got into such an argument one night with the production manager over something, I think over some lights or something. And I was 100% right, but I could tell by the way he was looking at me and smelling my breath, he could smell booze on my breath. I don't know,
I wasn't taking you serious.
Yeah, maybe it's time to. Well, it then became, it was a different sort of argument. So I thought this is the time. So I gave up. Went to AA, loved AA, was with a bunch of complete and utter, fantastic, really unbelievable guys. And they're all still sober.
Wow.
After 31 years.
That's
We
so
were
Keep in
amazing.
touch with them?
Yeah, the ones that are alive, yeah. Some are dead,
Mhm.
but not through booze.
Right.
And it's good. So,
That's great.
Good for you, man. That's
yeah,
amazing.
You should try it sometime.
I will. Sometime.
Sometime.
Yeah, but you're young. You're all right.
So we're
I
going
got
to
a
take you
little
back
bit.
to 1973.
1973.
Don't Look Now,
Uh-huh.
Oh,
the famous sex scene.
Uh-huh.
Were you behind the camera?
I was, handheld.
So I watched it. It's pretty damn good.
It is.
Really good. I love the clipping too between them getting dressed and everything.
The brilliance of that scene is the way it's cut.
So cool.
But also, I mean, love scenes, sex scenes are really hard to do.
I imagine, and there's a
well,
lot going on there.
Really hard to do to make it real, people still to this day see that and they say that they did make love because the rumors going around that she screwed on set.
Right.
They didn't. They did not. I can tell you that because it was Nick Rogue, myself, a focus puller who was so embarrassed he was facing the other way pulling focus, Simon Ramsey, and Julian Donald.
So I want people to know who the actors were. It was Julie Christie, right?
Yeah.
And Donald Sutherland.
Correct.
Donald Sutherland.
Correct.
The young Donald Sutherland.
Now, did you interact with Julie Christie back in Dr. Zhivago?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so she knew you.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I did. Yeah, we go to dinner and we were great friends. I mean, there were only 4 young people on Dr. Zhivago. There was Julie Christie, Tom Courtney, Michael Stevenson, the second AD, and myself.
Well, I say that because nowadays camera assistants sometimes aren't social.
Oh no! I loved the leading ladies, especially when I was a DP.
do tell.
Oh well, it's a long story. But anyway, worked with some very beautiful women, and I've been very lucky to photograph some of them.
Now you said everyone who was in that sex scene. They're just you and the director. So where's the rest of the crew?
Well, what happened was we didn't. If you've seen the movie, we've done the build up to the scene where they're in the bathroom, one thing or another, and then that was all shot in the Balgromon Hotel in Venice, where we rented a suite, and that's where they lived while they were in Venice. And Nick said, "Listen, we're going to do the love scene tomorrow." He said, "So take the Ariflex home, a few rolls of film," and we went back the next day. No one knew we were shooting that. The producer didn't know we were shooting it. No one knew except for Julie, Donald, I, and Nick. We went back, we shot it. And, I think the key for a director to doing those sort of scenes is, one, that scene is an integral part of the movie. It is the first time they've had sex of any sort since their child died. It's an integral part of the movie. It's obviously an integral part of the story. And there was a great deal of trust because Nick and I had done 4 movies with Julie. I mean, first of all, Zhivago, although he only did a month. And then Fahrenheit 451, which Nick shot, and I was the assistant. And then Far from the Madding Crowd, which I was the focus for, which Nick shot. So we were all great friends, you know. And then Donald was really easygoing. It's a bit more difficult now, apparently, but he was really easygoing. And we just went into that room, and the only thing, Nick sat in a chair way back in the room, and he said, "Listen, when Donald turned her over, she's got this dressing gown on, and Nick said, what I want you to do, he's going to pull her dressing gown apart and kiss her face and neck, go down, kiss her breast, and go down out of picture, and then when you feel him go out of picture, go over him and get a close-up of Julie, and then just get what you can."
Why the secrecy? You said that no one knew.
No, because
the producers.
Because no one trusted. No, because we knew it was going to be. They were both completely new. There were no pasties.
And that's kind of not a really normal thing. It's a normal thing now, but back then it wasn't very normal, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, the producers would never be out of the loop today.
They put pasties on, things like that. But also, don't forget, we were shooting 185, but you shoot full frame. You don't have hard masks in. So basically, you're composing for 185, and that's how it's going to be projected because there's a mask in the projector, but you're framing a lot more. So if you're going to cut down just above the crutch, when you shoot it, you're going to see it all. It's all there.
Yeah.
So that's where the trust has to come, and they trusted Nick and they trusted me.
So all in, there was only 6 of you in there, right?
All in, there was 5 of us.
5. Yeah.
So he didn't want the producer's input. That's why he didn't let them know.
No. But also, then what we did was once we shot the film, instead of sending all our film went to Technicolor Rome because they were processing the movie. We were in Venice. This we sent to Technicolor London, where both Nick and I knew Les Osterley, who ran the lab, who was also a good friend, and he knew Nick as a DP, and he'd taken me under his wing when I became a young cinematographer on my first movie, where everybody, it was a shock to the British. I came from basically being a clapper boy to a DP. I never operated. was only a focus puller on 2 pictures. Didn't like that. It was far too difficult a job.
Right.
It's a hard job.
It's horrible. David knows more about that than me. You sweat bullets till the next morning, because you didn't have reflex cameras in those days, so you weren't looking through the lens, and it was a nightmare, horrible job. So we sent that to London, but still, someone got hold of that negative and strips of the were put into Playboy magazine, and that's when
someone got paid.
Warren Beatty went crazy
Yeah.
because he told, because Paramount picked it up for as a negative pickup, and he went into Peter Bart, who was a big, Peter Bart from, what is it, Variety magazine.
So Warren Beatty, where did?
Yeah,
Well,
where
Warren
does he come
Beatty
in?
was a huge star,
Right,
in
yeah.
the 70s, huge,
But why did he get upset? You're talking about
because he was with Julie Christie. They were living
Oh.
They
together,
were together.
Got
yeah.
it.
and
Oh,
he
boy.
said he wanted to cut that scene pubic hair by pubic hair, and he was sort of instrumental of it not getting a very good release in the United States.
Wow, that is unfortunate.
But I mean, so although there was no real direction during that scene, the brilliance of it is the way Nick cut it, because it's not scripted that way. The idea of them making love and getting dressed and making love and getting dressed, it's just wonderful. Nick was an amazing movie maker,
Artist.
a true artist. Yeah, as the same with The Man Who Fell to Earth.
So we talked a little bit about how things have changed, and you mentioned that you think that it's because movies have become sort of a business, that it's changed the landscape. Do you feel like there still are people that are trying to make good artistic?
Yes,
film?
there are, but generally, I mean.
But I mean, in the past, it was make an artistic film and we'll fund it.
That's
Now
right.
it's no, we're not going to give you a very good budget.
No, but I mean, listen. Look, it's like that argument that started a couple of weeks ago between Scorsese and saying that the Marvel movies are not really movies; they're rides. I totally agree with him.
Yeah, I do.
I mean,
I do as well.
I don't like those movies.
Neither
I
do
know the audiences do. They're made to make lots of money, and they do make lots of money. And thank God for Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, you're right about that.
I mean, you look at the stuff that's coming out on Netflix. Two Popes. The Irishman, the studios wouldn't touch that movie,
right.
but they'll touch other rubbish like Spider-Man. I mean, people like those. I don't like those movies. I only even seen one. I saw one. I saw the first Robert Downey one. What was he?
Iron Man.
Iron Man. I hated it. I just don't like those movies. But that's not to say. But the audiences love them.
So, do you think that Netflix movies should be up for Oscars and things like
Absolutely.
that? Yeah,
They're movies.
So they think, because the rule is that they should only be in the theater. Am I correct?
No, the
on that?
rule is not. The rule is any movie is eligible that shows for 1 week to public showings in Los Angeles.
That's it.
That's it. That's the rule.
So that's why Netflix is doing that.
That's right. And
Lately, they've been doing
that's why
that.
they have to do it to
Yeah.
get it. And the Academy wanted to change that, but then that's not fair to. You can't change it for them. Change it for others.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I, listen. There's incredible stuff on Netflix.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah, I think going back to David's interview, we were
Yeah,
talking.
talk to David. Too.
We're gonna. This is important.
I had a two-parter.
Because
He did.
what Tony just mentioned, the action movies today with all the CGI and the computer graphics and stuff, and then what we were talking about, David, is our generation, our era. We were processing the movies, and now it's like there's so much stimulus.
They're just responding.
Yeah, you're
I think
just, like,
I probably
reacting
talked
to-
about that last
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Reacting to that, and that's to Tony's point here. I'm glad that there's independent worlds
Yeah.
now that they're making
For sure.
making good films.
I don't think storytelling will ever go away. I mean, it goes
But there's
back tens of thousands
formula,
of years.
right? There's a formula that there's kind of like, which is why a lot of people are rebooting the older stuff that was very successful back in the day,
And it's now not successful.
and now it's not.
When they reboot them, they're dreadful.
Yeah,
Why
because
touch
they're-
good things?
Well, they're trying to make it more current, and it sucks the life out of it.
But I mean, take Ford versus Ferrari. It's an action piece. There's a lot of action in that. But even though the action is great, it's still, James Mangold's an incredible director. He's very good at action, but it's also very character driven. So the action is character driven. It's not just put in for action.
Right.
I mean, and
Right.
I like character. I'm sure David does character driven movies.
Yeah.
And they're few and far between. In the big world of the cinema.
Yeah, I just finished a movie that is to be released in February, and this will be an official release. It went to Sundance last year and won the Dramatic Audience Award or something
was
like
that?
It's called Burden.
Oh, fantastic.
Burden.
Forrest Whitaker, Garrett Hedlund, Andrea Riseborough, produced by Robbie Brenner, directed by Andrew Heckler. Incredible movie, and it's very character driven.
Yeah, Forrest was in my first film I directed.
Oh yeah, he's so good.
Yes.
But look for it, because when it comes out, it's a fantastic piece.
So who do you think is doing it right? I mean, in a way that it's still artistic nowadays.
Well, I think there's a lot of great foreign films too. I mean, that's still very much an art form in, the French cinema, the Spanish cinema. Just a lot of great foreign films. And this is the time of year. I mean, there's a lot to see. We're going starting to get all the Academy screeners. I think that the smaller budget movies. I like the smaller budget movies as long as they've got enough money to do it properly. I mean, if you can raise $4 or $5 million, that goes a long way on a small movie. And I like some of these directors, like the guy that directed Jojo Rabbit. He also directed Thor, which made like $1 billion. So, he'll do those movies to make lots of money. That gives him the clout to make the movies he really wants to make.
Good point.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. All right, we want to go back a little bit too. Now you did was it a music video with David Bowie? What did you do with David?
The Man Who
Fell to Earth
movie.
Oh, the movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I've not seen it. But
how can you have me in here and not see my movies?
Well, geez, how do you get through them all?
Oh, you stay up.
You stay up all night.
Stay up on
Stay up all night.
You heard of cocaine?
I have heard of cocaine.
Oh, there you go. That'll keep you awake for a day or two.
Yeah, no. There's just so many.
No, I know. David Bowie was incredible. That's an amazing movie. Not because
you shot it.
It sounds like it's amazing it's an amazing movie. It's a very weird movie, and there's no one alive then or today that could have played that role. He's an alien, although he wasn't Nick Rogue's first choice. Nick Rogue's first choice was Michael Crichton, the author.
Oh wow!
Because he's about 6'7" tall and very skinny and looks very.
I didn't know he was an actor.
He's not. He's been in a few movies. Just a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he looks like an alien. And he was going to do it. And then of course he got cold feet and pulled out. So the movie sort of fell apart. And Nick Rogue had just seen a BBC omnibus documentary called Cracked Actor, and it was a documentary about David Bowie. He'd just come off of about 3 or 4 years of being completely strung out on alcohol and all drugs and the whole lot, And Nick somehow talked him into doing it, and he did it. And there's a lot of scenes in that movie where, but he was very professional. But he always turned up on time. He had his minders there that made sure he didn't drink and take drugs,
It's a good job.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of making sure you don't do shit.
Yeah, but just give me that shit. I'll look after it while you're not doing it.
I'll hold it for you.
That's funny.
But there's a couple of times where Nick didn't direct him at all. He always knew his lines. He was very professional, always on time. And Nick didn't direct him. You could see on the set he was barely holding it together, and it's perfect for the character. And he was wonderful. He was great to work with.
Nick knew what to not touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
great.
The movie's mostly unscripted.
No,
It is scripted.
it's scripted. Yeah.
Okay.
Paul Meyersberg wrote the script. Yeah.
All right. Because, it just seems like there was a lot of Bowie letting him do what he wanted to do.
No. It's very much scripted.
Was it? Okay. Well, then that's...
Very much scripted. As very much scripted. A lot of people think that Don't Look Now wasn't scripted. Very scripted. Great script.
I guess that's a credit to the
do you
director.
do you think that there's success in stuff that has less guidelines, like non-scripted or just concepts when you go into scenes?
Well, I think that I don't know really. When you get a director like Nick, he works very closely with the writers, very closely. Never once tried to. Well, he's passed away now, but never once tried to get a co-writing credit. Never, like a lot of directors want to do the rewrite because it's a bit more than a rewrite because they want to maybe get a bit of extra money for getting a credit. And And he would work very closely with the writers, and always liked the writers to be around, So they were always tinkering things, 'cause things, start one way and go off in a different direction and then come back,
Yeah.
But I think the script's the most important thing.
Sure.
But listen, look, I mean, a movie is really, it's all about the story and the script,
Yeah.
And then the director interprets that story in the script, I think.
And then how do you, as someone behind the camera, help to bring it to life? I mean, do you have how much investment do you have into the story? I mean, do you read a script? Is it something that you do, or do you just follow?
No, I obviously read the script, and I mean, many years ago you'd read 2 or 3 scripts, and you'd be offered 3 or 4 movies, and you choose the ones you want to do. Nowadays, you're offered one, you hope you get it.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I think that a cinematographer is a slave to 2 things. He's a slave to the script and the director. It's the cinematographer's job to put the director's vision on the screen. Nothing else. It's not his vision. It's the director's vision.
Got it.
That director may have been working on a script for 5 years to get it to where it's greenlit.
Yep.
And he's got a pretty good idea, and this is a complete moron, of how he wants his movie to look and to feel, And your job is to interpret that and then hopefully take it a stage further and work together as a team, as a partnership.
I would imagine, having done the job too, your relationship with Nick, there must have been a lot more input than just the cinematographer. You guys were close.
Well, we're very close. And, whenever we were on location, most of our movies done on location, we would always live together,
Right.
Eat every night, drink every night, party every night. But I mean, so
some pretty deep bonds come.
Yeah,
come
but
from
you're always
stuff like
talking.
that.
Somehow you're always talking about the movie. Well, what about we do this and blah.
Right.
So it's constant. I mean, it's a bit different.
Constantly evolving.
I've never liked making movies at home because what happens is you finish work and you go home and you go to the nagging wife and the kids and this and that, and you got to pay the bills and But when you're away, you're there just to make the movie.
Yeah, location's great. That's
It's
all
wonderful.
you do.
And you
Make a
get
movie.
and this you get
100%
you get per
focus.
diem,
Right.
and you live very
and you
high,
get shuttled around. and-
high on the hog, and you're treated like gods.
Yeah.
And it's lovely.
Speaking of which, what movie was it you were? I think it was the Anthony Quinn movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had more than just a car and per diem.
Oh, that was the best movie I ever did. I love that movie. It just came out at the wrong time. It was a fictional story about Onassis and Jaclyn Kennedy, and Jackie Bissett played Jaclyn Kennedy, and Anthony Quinn played Onassis. And he and I became great friends. And I had 3 actors I've been really close to, and that was Anthony Quinn, Charlie Bronson, who's fantastic, and Michael Caine, and they're all wonderful, wonderful human beings.
Yeah.
And talk about raconteurs, Michael Caine can tell a story.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's great.
But anyway, so on the Greek Tycoon, we're in prep in London, and obviously they got a boat. They got a big boat called La Belle Simone, which is a monstrous yacht to take over to be Onassis' yacht because we couldn't get the real one. Christina, which was then when we were there still in the harbour in Athens. But anyway, we got this, and how Alan Klein, who produced the movie, who I knew, strangely, he didn't get me the job, but I didn't realize until I was on the job that he was producing. He was the Stones manager. Then he left the Stones and joined the Beatles, and then left the Beatles and then made the Greek Tycoon with $9 million that he got from somewhere.
Wow.
Anyway, and he was a great guy. I loved Alan. So we're in prep in London, and the line producer called me and said, so obviously Onassis has a helicopter. There's a lot of helicopter work in the movie. He said, so I've got you an Alouette, which was a French helicopter, which was the best, or in those days, was always the best helicopter to work with. It was the one that looked like a big bumblebee, and it had a lot of torque, and you hung out the side on a Tyler mount. And I said, where did you get that from? He said, I got it from the Olympic Airways. I said, what, the Greek Airways? He said, yes. I said, I'm not flying with the Greek pilot. Because I used to like to do that myself because it looked very flash, hanging out the helicopter, the girls like that. So he said, well, what do you suggest? I said, well, I've just worked with this guy from Alaman Helicopters, John Ackroyd, let's get him. So anyway, they got the helicopter from Ackroyd. They flew it out to Corfu, where we were staying. And John came in one day and he said, listen, he said, just want you to know, Alan, this is a huge rental for us. I mean, we had it for 12 weeks.
Wow.
So imagine that rental.
Yeah.
And he said, the company have only rented this helicopter for Monday to Friday. So Alan wants you to have it for the weekend. I said, what do you mean? He said, tell me where you want to go, I'll take you. So I had my wife and kids with me.
Wow.
And we'd go off to these beaches, and it was just fantastic.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, and then even one day, Alan
man.
Klein came to me one day and said, listen, Tony, he said, are you going to use the helicopter this week? And I said, no. He said, I need, do you think I could borrow it? Yeah, of course, Alan, yeah. So anyway, another time we're on the Belle Simone, and we're off the coast, and I've got two huge pontoons towed by tugs, one with a generator and 4 arc lamps on, and another with the Chapman Titan crane on it. And we're just about to shoot, and this boat is appearing on the horizon. So I got the mega, get out, fuck off, screaming. And the pilot happened to be on board, and he said, don't complain about that too much. I said, why? He said, it's yours. I said, what are you talking? He said, wait, just wait. So this boat is getting closer. It's about a 40-foot boat. It's towing a speedboat. I said, what do you mean it's mine? He said, well, Alan's also got a shipping company in Athens, and this is his personal boat, so you've got that. So I had a helicopter and a boat. Can't get better than that. So that's always one of my favorite movies.
That's great. I really appreciate, Tony, stories like that about you being friends with Anthony Quinn and Michael Caine and stuff
Charles
like that.
Bronson, yeah.
Charles Bronson. Because in my position where I'm at, I get to be friends with guys like David too, and meet these people that are now lifelong friends, and actors and producers and stuff like that. I just appreciate that, because you really can break it down to they're just human beings as well.
Charlie Bronson was great. I mean, he, if Charlie just did that, he was laughing out loud.
Yeah.
And he was just a great guy,
Yeah.
and he was a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
And took things very seriously. And if you didn't know what you were doing, he'd rip you apart.
Mm.
But if he knew what you were doing, and we became great friends after the movie. And I used to have poker games every month, and Charlie would come and play poker with the guys.
Nice.
And then I remember I was going out with some young, beautiful model. And I said to her, I dropped her off one night, and I said, listen, there's about 6 or 7 other girls you've got like you. She said, yeah. I said, well, why don't, next Friday I'd like to have a pool. I got this nice big house in Brentwood, and I was single. It was my sort of bachelor pad. And I said, I'm going to have a party. So you bring, so she brought over 8 girls. So I invited 8 guys, and Charlie was one of them, This is sort of Charlie was. So it was all going well, and people were swimming, and I cooked a lot of steaks, and things were getting down to what was eventually going to happen later in the evening. And came midnight. Charlie had to go. And I remember there's a guy, there was an agent there called Bobby Lippman, great friend of mine. He's passed on now, and he had 2 incredible girls, one on either knee, and sitting at the table and having a drink, And Charlie left and said goodbye, and he got to the front door, then came back in. He said, "Excuse me, I'd just like to say something to you young ladies. If either one of you fucks Bobby Lippman tonight, the whole of Hollywood will know tomorrow." And he just left. And that's the sort of guy he was. Lovely, lovely man.
Yeah.
Lovely man.
That's great.
So your children, your son George is also in film.
He's very much in film. He's a big DP now. Probably
He's a big dog.
He is a big dog. He did Rocket Man. He's just about
amazing job. Beautiful film.
And the Kingsman movies. And now he's just about to start, actually next week or beginning of December, he starts prep on the new Fantastic Beasts.
Did he
Fantastic
sit down with
Beasts.
you? Did he sit down with you, Tony, and Dad? Talk to me. What is it?
Yeah. Did he spend some time on set? Did he?
How did he get there from?
Well, he and his younger brother, who's 2 years younger, Chunky. He's not at all chunky, but that's another story. I divorced their mum, and I was living here, and I get a call one Saturday evening or Sunday morning, and she said, "Pick them up next Wednesday." I said, "From where?" She said, "What do you mean from where?" "From LA." I said, "Well, I'm going to go away." She was. She said, what do you mean you're going? I said, "We're going to go and do a movie." She said, "Well, that's your problem."
This is your ex-wife.
Yeah, so I went and picked them up from the airport, and I said, "Okay, listen, guys, we're going to go away. You're going to go to work." They said, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
I said, "We're going to go to Utah, and we're going to shoot a movie. I'm going to shoot a movie called Sandlot, and you're going to work on it." So I made one of them the loader, and the other one the second. We don't know.
Brilliant.
We don't know.
Brilliant.
We don't know how to do that, Dad. I said, well, I'll teach you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll teach you tomorrow.
So I went up to Claremont.
I spent years getting good at that. I'll teach you tomorrow.
I went up to Claremont and gave him some magazines and some films. That's how you load the magazines. Don't fuck it up, or I'll have to fire you. And somehow out of that, they got the bug, and
That's great.
they stayed. And then, George operated about 9 movies for me, and Chunky pulled focus, and they moved up, and then they wanted to go back to England, and I gave George a break on a second unit, and then he became a DP.
Oh, and George, I mean, Jesus, that Children of Men.
Yeah.
If people listening, if you haven't seen Children of Men, it's just a great movie. But there is this great oneer shot,
Yeah.
and that's just phenomenal. Have you guys had a chance to?
I haven't. No.
Yeah, it's just a phenomenal.
Well, the incredible, that's
Shot.
really, so I put him in a position where he could do things, and he went back to England and became a very big camera operator in England. And then, Chivo or Lebetsky, who photographed Children of Men, I mean, he always operated on his own movies, but I guess this was one he didn't want to operate, so he chose George, and the whole movie is handheld. There's not one dolly shot, one steady cam shot, and that's that movie and that one of David's talking about, the Siege of Bexhill. It changed his career. It changed his career. Right. I mean, directors would come to England, they would ask for him, things like that.
Well, and to describe the shot a little bit, it is basically, if you can picture historically, like the Polish ghettos during the Nazi occupation. So it's like that in London in the future, where immigrants are all shoved into a part of the city that's just walled off, sort of like Escape from New York kind of thing. Yeah. And he follows Clive Owen, right, who's running with a woman who's pregnant or with a baby at this point, and they're being fired at, and they're in the middle of the military who's shooting at the people who live there locally with guns, and it's just this huge gun battle, and it's just one single long amazing shot. It's just it's classic.
Isn't done much anymore, right?
Well,
he just did it, but what I mean by that is
I think
we talked about it a little bit on your interview.
They do oneers, but I mean nothing.
It's a lot of cuts.
They take away from the story a lot of times.
Yeah,
and this one is the story.
And also, it's incredibly difficult on so many levels, because it's not just George operating the camera. The other one's got to pull focus. Yeah. But the timing of the explosions,
right.
The
guns firing,
the
squibs,
AD and all this,
tanks and crew and
crazy
background extras,
totally
and
synchronized,
blood squibs going off, because it isn't like, oh, just go back, let's start again. You got to reset everything.
Probably take half a day to reset, if that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you got a small army, tanks back to one, reapply the explosions, and all that.
So you want to get it. You want to get it as in as a few takes as you can. Probably one if you can. Right. But you want to get it right.
He's good. George is good. He's the real deal. Yeah. Good luck to him. He's making lots and lots of money, so he can look after me when I retire. Very proud of him.
Love it.
There you go. All right. Well, we do something fun at the end of our podcast.
Is it when we get paid?
Yes. Yes. We hand out $100 bills.
Oh, it's okay.
Not really. What we do is we ask some rapid fire questions. They're really not rapid fire, because we do have some discussion that comes from
Let David talk. Ask him some questions.
Well, I will.
No, they asked me these questions last time.
They're different. Different
but
series.
It's basically a rapid and then discuss.
Yeah.
Rapid.
So just here you go. Here's the first one. Yeah. You ready for it? Giving presents or getting presents? Which do you prefer? Mm-hmm.
Getting presents.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'm honest.
Yeah.
Most people would say giving presents because that's the correct thing to
say. You want to be politically correct.
Well, yeah, it's a very politically correct time now.
It is.
See, don't forget we didn't have the Me Too movement when I started.
Yeah. So I do like giving, though. Giving is...
I give of myself.
Right. It's nice to give a present.
But it's not wrapped up. With a bow. Or you can put a bow around it, I suppose.
All right, next one. If you had a child, which you do, what do you want them to be most popular? Would you want them to be the most popular person in their high school? It's kind of a dumb question, because you've already, they're already adults and making movies. But is that something that you thought would be important?
No, not really.
Yeah. Were you popular in high school?
Not really.
No, you quit at 15
I quit at 15.
Right.
I tried very much to stay under the radar.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
smart.
Like, I didn't like school.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
said
and
you
they-
left school at 15.
Yeah, I did, and you got the cane for everything. If you didn't do your French homework, you got 6 of the best. It was fucking painful.
It hurt. It hurt to go to
I know.
school.
And
The
then-
welds.
and
It
then-
would take
and then
forever to
it
for the
wasn't,
welds.
it wasn't so bad in the first school when you got cane because you could cry. But then when you went to the upper school, you got cane. You couldn't really cry because there was chicks in the class. you
Oh
know.
yeah.
So you try to stay under the radar.
It sounds like a Pink Floyd video.
That's funny. These are really weird questions. I'm going to move on to
Yeah,
a
who
different
came
one.
up with these questions?
The internet.
The internet, as usual. How many redheads are you friends with?
I only had one redheaded girlfriend.
Only one.
Only one, yeah.
Yeah, kind of rare, aren't they? I
Uh-huh.
heard they're.
Gingers.
Yeah, you're kind of gingery though, aren't you? Look
little
at you
bit.
there. It's losing the ginger. Though.
Yeah.
It's becoming silver.
Yep.
All right. What's your favorite carnival food?
What is carnival food?
Like when you go to the fair. Do you go to
Popcorn.
the fair? You probably don't go to the fair, huh? Like circus. We just talked-
What'd you eat during the filming of the?
I'm not really into cotton candy and
Yeah.
There's
They have
things
some
I
pre-
don't like about I don't like what are those hot dogs covered in paste?
Corn dogs.
I think they're the most disgusting thing in the world.
Yeah.
They
taste like
are kind
shit.
of weird.
They
They
are.
taste like shit.
Yeah.
You know.
It's American food. What do you expect?
Exactly.
And deep fried butter's not very good either.
Mm. I don't know. Some people would disagree with that. If you were really hungry, would you eat a bug? If you were just starving, would you eat a bug?
Well, I've eaten bugs.
Well, it's,
I ate a
what-
witchetty grub.
I don't know what that is.
Witchetty grub's a great big maggot.
Oh,
And that's
just
that's-
raw,
No,
or-
but when I was out with the Aborigines in the desert in Australia,
okay.
and that's a delicacy. So, oh shit!
Don't worry about that.
You know, they gave you these grubs to eat. It's like it tasted like shit, but
Yeah.
you
I
have
thought
to
you were
eat
going to
it.
say it's
Now,
at the
what-
bottom
now-
of the tequila
Is
bottle.
it cooked or is it raw?
No, it's raw. You put them in your mouth somehow, and you twist you put your head
Oh,
in your
come
mouth
on.
and twist, and you pull the insides out and eat the grub. You know,
Okay, that was
I only have one.
exactly what I was hoping for with the answer. That answer, it really, really was. So, you didn't dip them in hummus or
no, they don't have much hummus out in the outback.
what do they call it? In Vegemite? You put some Vegemite on it.
Vegemite, yeah. The Australians are really we just have Marmite in England, but they
So,
have
so this bug's alive. They're handing you this bug
yeah,
alive.
yeah. And then
'cause
the
it's
other, but
fresh.
worse than that though
Oh,
was when
please.
I did the second unit on Walkabout because Nick directed it,
Mhm.
and so I did all the killing of the animals, but we never wasted it. Like when we killed wallabies, the Aborigines with us, they would eat it straight away. But what the first things they do when they kill a kangaroo or a wallaby is they cut the top of the tail off, pull it out, and pull the sinews out of the tail, which they use for rope.
Oh, wow.
And then they go in
Wow.
and then cut the liver out, and that's the delicacy, the warm liver. And the-
Wow.
And they gave you a little taste of that, so you have to eat that. I hated that too.
Mhm.
So now,
No,
And it's
no,
camping.
Was it?
And it was camping.
camping.
Yeah, but
correlation.
but
No wonder you're fucked up about camping.
But you don't
Bugs
have-
and liver and life, pulling tails out of
it's not-
animals.
yeah.
So now you see why we do these, right? Because the fun stuff comes out. All right. Do you go to sleep? Oh God, I really should be wearing my glasses right now.
Did someone text you these?
Horrible. Well, it's even if it's the glasses. How long can you hold your breath for?
Whoa.
Should we
There's
do
a
it?
joke in there.
Yeah.
It depends how far. It depends how far you're going down.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's the joke we were hoping
Diving
for.
reference, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
scuba diving reference.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Do you eat cereal by chance? Or
I
is this-
used to.
What's your favorite cereal?
Yeah, what is breakfast for you?
Yeah. What's breakfast for you?
Breakfast. I sort of I tend to eat a little bit of oatmeal for breakfast.
Nice.
Okay.
But I guess that's cereal.
Yeah, that is cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you put milk in it?
No cream.
Cream. Okay. Like
He's British.
Right. Do you like living here more than Britain?
No.
Did you live in London?
Yes.
Is that where you're from?
I don't know. I don't like California.
No.
The good things about California are the weather.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of life, you know.
Tony, I want to circle
Too-
back to
just
the
too fast-paced.
delicate the liver thing.
Yeah.
Was it the taste or was it the idea?
Of what?
The eating.
Why-
the,
why
the
Oh, no,
liver?
they're just
delicacy.
fucking horrible. It's just horrible. It's like eating.
Ugh.
It's just horrible.
It's raw, just dead,
yeah,
right? I mean, it's still
still-
circulating.
It's raw, warm death. But I do like little cooked liver I like to go to Musso and Frank's every 6 months to get their
Oh,
liver
they got
and
a great
Liver.
bacon and liver.
Yeah,
liver and
really.
onions.
We should go there. We go there for one lunch one day.
Yeah.
I'll buy you lunch.
Oh,
Liver, onions, mashed potatoes. You can't get better than that.
Oh,
yeah, they
nice.
do a great
Okay.
liver and onions.
Don't try raw liver. It's just not good.
I just was curious if it was the idea that the kangaroo was laying next to you or something, and
That's just
you were eating part of it.
No.
it's
It
brutal.
probably was if they just cut it out.
Yeah, but they ate everything. They eat everything.
Right.
And then what they don't leave, we left they cut the legs off and they cooked those. And they left the body there, and we went off and we came back past the same place about 2 weeks later, and there was nothing there but bones. The maggots had just eaten the whole thing.
Wow.
That is
Nothing goes
crazy.
to waste in California.
And then you just eat the maggots.
Yeah, the witchetty grubs.
Right? So, it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
It's just a whole cycle there. All right, so this is going to say everything about you right now.
Bring it.
Everything.
Okay.
If there's a spider in your house, do you kill it or do you set it free?
I just let it go. Meaning I don't, if it's in the house, let it do what it wants.
You just don't bother
You
it.
don't torch
No,
the.
He
you
didn't
don't
even
torch
take
the
it out.
house.
I'm not frightened of spiders.
Yeah. Good.
All right. Well,
Well, I want the question that I got, which is your childhood crush.
oh,
Yes.
yeah. That's it. Who was your childhood crush? Because we know his.
Brigitte
We know-
Bardot.
Eh?
But Brigitte Bardot. I never told you the story of Brigitte Bardot.
Please.
You want that?
Hell
Of
yeah.
course.
Bring it.
So we'd when we went to Paris, Michael Lindsay Hogg didn't fly. So we had to go to Paris on the train to get those cameras. So we went Friday night, left Victoria Station at 10 o'clock. Michael wasn't a big drinker. I was a big drinker. We had the chef's all day special, a very greasy eggs, liver, chops, sausage and eggs. And lots of cognac. So we get to Paris in the morning, we check into the hotel. Michael's throwing up, he's sick. And I went upstairs and slept for a couple of hours. And then we went off in the afternoon and saw these cameras. The next day, we were due to go and see Brigitte Bardot. Now, you've got to understand that Brigitte Bardot in 1966 was at the height of her sensuality. She was unbelievable. And both Michael and I were very nervous about meeting her. So we got up in the morning, had a bit of breakfast, then went to a bar near where she lived because we didn't have an appointment until 3 o'clock. And we played that ping game. Remember those first table tennis games? And
Oh yeah, yeah.
was
I
it
do.
ping pong, yeah.
Ping pong, yeah.
Drinking cognac. So we're nice and sloshed. And we eventually go to Brigitte Bardot's house. And we're shown into go upstairs into this living room. Beautiful. It was very sparse. A couple of sofas, marble, a couple of ornaments, and a spiral staircase going up. And anyway, so we're sitting there twiddling our thumbs, and then suddenly we hear clip, clop on the floor upstairs. And then it goes quiet, and then suddenly there's a clank. And a high heel hits the top step of this metal spiral staircase and starts to come down. And she slowly reveals herself. Now, she's got these 6-inch heels on. She has what I would call a zoot suit. It was either 15 denier nylon or something. It was a one piece, completely see-through. And as she comes down, you've got these two young kids. We're young, and you can see, not only can you see her nipples, but you can see every pubic hair.
Right.
Now, we don't know where to look. And Michael...
Keep eye contact. Keep eye contact.
Michael...
Don't look down. Don't look
Michael
down.
starts to... he got him back...
She did that on purpose.
He would... No, it gets better.
You think?
He would glow red like a tomato.
Oh, that's
And then
hilarious.
suddenly down the staircase comes this tall, very, very unattractive Frenchman who's got a brown suit and brown shoes, and he sits down. He kept calling me Tiny, not Tony. So Michael's,
Listen, asshole.
and he's got two totally different coloured socks on. They were luminous. One was a green luminous sock, remember those luminous socks, and one was a red luminous sock. And he's talking, and Michael's talking to Brigitte Bardot, and he's trying to into it. And I swear to God, he lifted one sheet and let out this most enormous fart. Well, we didn't know what to do. She takes no notice. Anyway, and I thought I was going to choke, and then suddenly, the afternoon's coming to an end, and we, she said very nicely she couldn't do it. She'd love to have done it. She had another commitment. She said, and she spoke sort of relatively good English. She said, well, what I would like to do is I'd like to take you boys to La Capole to dinner.
Oh.
And I thought, oh my God, this is heaven. This is absolutely,
Wow.
we're going to go to La Capole with Brigitte Bardot. And just the three of us.
Yeah.
And then Michael said, well, we can't. So she said, why not? She said, well, we've got to get the plane back. So we got to get the train back.
No, I would
She
have been
said,
elbowing so hard.
She said, well, why have you got to get the train back? She said, well, we've got a meeting with Mick Jagger tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. And she said, well, get the plane. And Michael said, I don't fly. So I've never forgiven him for that.
Jeez.
So we never had dinner in La
Oh,
Capole.
wow.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it's very sad.
Can you imagine?
The whole thing is just, I mean, it starts off with we're drunk, right? Then she's naked, or almost.
Pretty much.
Well,
Right?
she-
And then it's the entrance, and then
Yeah.
there's this Frenchman, and then there's the socks, then there's the passing of gas.
Yeah.
And then there's dinner, an opportunity for dinner in La Capole with Brigitte
It sounds
Bardot.
like a scene from The Man Who Fell to Earth. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like a scene from that the Grand Bouffe, the blowout.
Yeah.
So much color in that one little
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
visit.
I've had
So-
a colorful life.
Well, speaking
That's-
of a
that's
colorful
wonderful.
life, David Armstrong, who was your childhood crush?
There's an actress named Jaclyn Smith.
Oh God.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I know a bit about that. That's Roy Wagner's friend.
Yes. You've met her, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. So tell us more about that briefly, if you'd like. You married her, did you not?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did. I married her. We were married for 10 years. We have 2 children. And it, like all things, had to come to an end,
It happens.
But
Did you guys meet on a show?
we did on a movie called Night. Oh, the other actor that I forgot to tell you was a truly, truly great friend of the day. He had a really great friend. We were such great friends with Robert Mitchum.
Ah,
I got asked to do 1979.
Wow.
I got asked to do a movie. A friend of mine was going to be the line producer on a German tax shelter movie they're going to shoot in Arizona. And he gave me the script to read, and I read it. It was a complete piece of crap. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. And he said, well, why it'd be nice and warm there, blah, blah, blah.
And where was it going to happen?
In Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
And I said, no. So about 3 weeks later, he called me. The producer's flying through from Germany. Come and have lunch. We went and had lunch. And they offered me a bit more money, but I still, in those days, I was very choosy about what I did, because you could be choosy in those days because you're offered lots of movies. And they offered a bit more money, and I said, no. And then they said, and they kept talking. I said, well, who's playing the detective? And they said, Robert Mitchum. I said, I'm in.
I'll be there.
There's a mate of mine. I worked on Ryan's Daughter with Robert Mitchum, and they became great buddies. And he said, Tony, if ever you get a chance with Bob Mitchum, you guys will get on like a house on fire. So I said, I'm in. I said, who's playing the girl? They said, Jaclyn Smith. I said, who's that? I said, Charlie's Angels. Well, I never watched that. That was crap, So I went and did the movie,
Stunning,
and
gorgeous woman.
then I guess one thing led to another. But
Sure.
my friendship,
I guess
I
I
guess
guess
so.
something.
but my friendship with Bob was
You've told me a great story about Robert, and I can't remember what it was.
Which one?
Robert Mitchum. Which
Betty-
story?
the Betty Ford Center.
Yes, that one. That was it.
Well, even though I was never sent away, I thought, when prior to joining, I thought I should stop drinking. I tried and it didn't really work, so I thought I'd go to Betty Ford Center. I heard a lot about Betty Ford Center, so I checked myself into Betty Ford. So I was married to Jaclyn. I went in the limo, took my suits with me because I thought I was going to the finest restaurants in Palm Springs. Didn't realize that until I got there that it was a lockdown.
Checking in, buddy.
And you're checking in, and one thing and another, and there was 3 halls. It was North Hall, South Hall, and a place called McCullen Hall. So the men were in North, we were in South, and McCullen was a trial hall. It was a co-ed, so they put me in there. That was their mistake. Anyway, so my lot, whoever they were in class or group, or they said go to the canteen and get a late lunch. So I go to the canteen. Hamburger. There's a guy in the background cleaning tables, big guy with a white apron. And he goes out a shot, and I'm eating it. But then suddenly I feel this breathing behind me. This big hand grabs me on the shoulder and squeezes it. And I turn, and before I could turn around, this booming voice said, did your bitch send you here too? And I look right at Bob Mitchum. I got to tell you, we have more fun in the Betty Ford Center than any human being should have.
Oh, man. What a wonderful story.
He
That's
was
fun.
he was a great guy.
Yeah.
I may interview for that. That sounds like a great
man.
script.
And
Yeah.
boy,
Yeah.
did Bob like a drink.
Yeah.
I remember on that movie, because it was a German tax shelter movie, we bought a British Crow because Arizona was a right-to-work state. And this old prop man called Jack Towns, and I knew him from the movie business in London. And the first day of shooting, And we were doing something outside the set, and I said to Jack, we're in this house, and I said, Jack, 11 o'clock, I want a white one. He said, what's a white one, Governor? I said, it'd be a vodka and tonic, Jack. And I said, in the afternoon, I'll say a brown one. And he said, what's a brown one, Governor? I said, it'll be a coffee and cognac. Done. And this booming voice at the show said, when the kid has that, I want one too. And that was Mitchum. That's how we.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but Mitchum was such a great actor. You know, he drank all day long. He never fluffed his lines.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you have to do is after lunch, you have to lower the key light a bit to get in his eyes because they started to close. But he was a great guy. I love Bob.
Totally
That's
different time.
really
And if anybody's wondering what that meant, lower the key light, that means his head's dipping down and there's no light in his eyes, so the light has to go down too. You got to get the light drunk and bring it down with him.
That's funny. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm really glad that David introduced
Yeah, but you didn't
us to
ask him many questions.
Well,
This is your day, buddy.
This is your day.
This is
You're
your day,
here,
Tony. This
Yeah.
is all about you.
This
We
is about
already
you.
had a wonderful interview with
No, we talked up a
David.
storm.
Yeah.
No, thanks for coming in, Tony.
No,
really
great. It's
appreciate
really
it.
it's
Wonderful.
enjoyable. I hope it's a great thing because it's a lot of fun. You talk about the business, talk about things you love, and
Yeah.
talk about the good side of things and the fun side of things. Because movie making should be fun.
I agree.
Tragically, it's not anymore. Everybody's so fucking serious.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be serious when you shoot, but I mean, it's not fucking brain surgery, is it? It's, it's
We're not
entertainment.
saving lives, but they act it.
Yeah, man.
People act like we're saving
I
lives.
actually had I lost a client once
To what?
to that saying that is like,
Oh.
I forget what his name was, so it'll be Jason today.
Hi.
Well, Jason, you know, I'm glad you called. Let's take a look at what you got going on. And it was this little short that they were trying to raise money for to get to the feature and so on. And it was well done. And I said to him, I said, well, it sounds to me like you got a good head on your shoulders and you realize we're just making a movie.
Right. That was the end of that.
Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was on the other line.
He was way more serious
He
about it
was
than you.
like,
this is my
No.
life.
I kept waiting for it.
Yeah,
What was
that
the
was it.
response?
Silence.
Yeah.
Silence. He said, well, thanks for your time, Michael, and we'll be seeing you. And
He had a life to go save.
Yep, he did. Making a short.
Yeah, that's it. That's it doesn't need to be that serious.
I agree.
None of it
I'm-
does. Nothing in
I'm with
creation
Tony.
needs
I'm
to
with
be
Tony
that
here.
serious. You gotta have some. So
Just
that's
a different, but also, you know, it's a different group of people coming in the business now. You know, I mean, there's no characters. You know, even Roy was a character.
Yes.
You know, was a character.
Yeah.
And but there you go,
Yeah.
gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
And
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
we'll talk to you soon, David. I'm sure. And Tony,
David's
thank you
going to
so
be
much.
our repeat offender.
Absolutely. he
Well,
is.
you're good. You're going to bring. You should bring someone in. You know, bring Yatsu.
All right.
Later.
See you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.